He was the most consistently outstanding center back for the 2021 Serie A champions, and he was the most consistently embarrassing defender in all of world football. He's also a 24-year-old defensive stalwart for a European giant, playing Champions League football, while he's the 29-year-old new signing for a team hovering over the relegation zone. One player is coming off a career-best 26-goal season at 25 years old, while the other scored 8 goals in all competitions last year at the age of 30. But take a wild guess as to which players Gareth Southgate called up for England's World Cup squad. Fikayo Tomori and Tammy Abraham didn't make the plane, and can anyone in the class tell me what both of them have in common? Now every World Cup is going to have a few players that'll be unlucky to miss out, but this is different. I've never seen such a blatant disregard for talent and accomplishments at the European level in all my life, and all just because the players in question don't play in their home country's domestic league. Which is why in today's video we'll be looking at the problem with Premier League bias. Welcome back guys, you're watching the Sideline Starters, and I'm Andy, first team all sideline. Don't forget to drop a like to help the channel grow, and without further ado, let's get started. Now we're going to get to Tammy later, but first and foremost, the most egregious exclusion from England's World Cup squad is hands down Fikayo Tomori. The 24-year-old center back has had an incredible journey in his young career so far. He was born in Canada actually, in 1997, but moved to England in 2003, where he would join Chelsea's youth academy 2 years later at 8 years old. He made his debut for the Blues in 2016 at the age of 18, signing a 4-year extension with the club that summer. He was then loaned out to Brighton and Hull City in the subsequent seasons, followed by a spell that would change his life forever. His 2018-19 move to Derby County. He started 55 games for Frank Lampard's side that year, the second highest on the team, and played alongside future England international and Chelsea teammate Mason Mount. Derby were one game away from winning promotion to the Premier League, but came up just short. But Chelsea had seen enough. Derby's Player of the Year was called back to Chelsea for the 2019-20 season and made 15 Premier League appearances that year, highlighted by that screamer against Wolves. But despite a promising start, Tomori was a victim of having to compete with one of football's greatest center backs of all time, Thiago Silva. Chelsea signed the Brazilian legend in the summer of 2020 to pair with Antonio Rudiger and saw young Tomori as surplus to requirements, loaning him to Milan in the winter of 2021. And he hasn't looked back since. He took over for an injured Simon Kjær and has maintained his spot in the starting 11 his entire time with the club. While Romagnoli and Kalulu have split time here and there, Tomori has been the constant rock in a defense that allows the likes of Theo Hernandez to bomb forward. Tomori's first full season in Italy landed him a spot in the Team of the Year, and ended with the Rossoneri winning their first Serie A title in over 11 years. Does the English FA just not know how big a deal that is? Milan were in banter mode for over 10 years, and out of nowhere took their place back on the throne of Italian football. And I'm not saying Tomori is the sole reason for Milan's success, but he's undeniably one of their most crucial players, playing 40 games last year and playing every league game this year so far. Champion? Check. Consistent starter? Check. And incredibly talented in a position where your country needs depth in? Mega check. We can discuss Tomori's merits all day, but what really makes his exclusion so baffling is when you compare him to the other players in his position. Let me just start by saying that Sideline Starters isn't the place you go to get all toxic and go rah-rah on players just because they're underperforming. If anything, we're really romantic about football on this side and try to shine a light on the good things the players are doing, not the bad things. With that being said, Harry Maguire has been absolutely dreadful these last 2 years. It's no coincidence that the second he left the Man United starting 11, they started flying up the table. Even with World Cup winner Rafael Varane next to him, Ten Hag still felt it was necessary to splash the cash on Lisandro Martinez to replace him. And that's because Harry's capabilities as a modern center back are just too limited. He's not comfortable on the ball and looks incredibly awkward carrying it out of the defense. And the numbers prove it. Compared to center backs in the top 5 leagues in the last calendar year, Maguire ranks in the 8th percentile for attempted dribbles and 9th percentile for dribbles completed, for a dribble success rate of 50%. A 27th percentile mark, while Tomori on the other hand ranks in the 59th, 55th, and 53rd percentiles respectively. Maguire also lacks the tackling efficiency to make up for his lack of pace, and the numbers are staggering here too. Harry Maguire ranks in the 16th percentile for tackles attempted and 23rd percentile for tackles won. And then we have Tomori, ranking in the 97th percentile for both attempted tackles and tackles won. making Tomori a tackling specialist. Now look, I'm not naive enough to think that Gareth Southgate would just drop Harry Maguire from all of his plans entirely, and I'm not trying to sit here and just cherry pick stats to prove a point. When he's shielded by a back three and given time on the ball, Harry Maguire can be exceptional at distributing long balls and progressive passes, landing in the 94th percentile for switches, 91st for passes into the final third, and 90th for completed long passes, compared to Tomori's 58th, 85th, and 48th percentiles respectively. But despite Maguire's passing ability, the human eye and numbers confirm that Tomori is the overall better defender, having more strengths than weaknesses and excelling in crucial areas for a defender. But playing for Manchester United alone and being the most expensive English defender in Premier League history clearly comes with its benefits. Gareth's loyalty to Maguire given his performances in the Euros and World Cup is also saving him a spot on the plane. Which is wrong, totally wrong, but understandable to an extent, I guess? What's not understandable in the slightest though is how Connor Cody got on the plane. His peak was always at mid-table Wolves, and is now playing for Everton and was spent the entire season hovering over the relegation zone. I just don't understand how Premier League mediocrity is somehow held in higher regard than an entire Serie A championship, and Cody's numbers are even worse than Maguire's. He ranks in the 2nd percentile for interceptions, tackles, and aerial duels won, which is actually shocking. He's also in the 5th percentile for successful dribbles and 11th in passes into the final third. I'm genuinely confused what Connor Cody brings to the table that Tomori doesn't. And in the comment section below, feel free to tell me that I'm wrong or that I'm right. Would you take Connor Cody or Harry Maguire over Tomori? The Premier League bias is pretty blatant to me at this point. Harry Maguire's horrific form coupled with his limitations, in addition to Connor Cody's average peak level of play, mean that Tomori should at least be on the plane. This all makes even less sense when you consider that Kyle Walker's injury will probably make him unavailable for the group stage, meaning that England could use more cover from a pacey center back now more than ever. And the bias doesn't stop at the defense, it goes up to the offense too. Tammy Abraham is coming off the back of a 26-goal season in all competitions last year, scoring 17 in the Serie A alone. Callum Wilson, on the other hand, scored 8 goals in all competitions last year, missing over half the season due to injury. In Wilson's 8 seasons in the Premier League, he's only scored more than 10 goals twice, scoring 12 in 2020 and 14 in 2018, the best goal return of his career at the age of 26. In Tammy's 3 seasons in the Premier League, he scored more than 10 goals once, except his best season came in 2019 at the age of 22, scoring 15 times that year. I honestly have no idea what else to say. Southgate defended his decision, saying Tammy has had a bad run of form at the wrong time. But if he's picking players based on form, shouldn't Maguire be watching the World Cup from the couch like the rest of us? And if he's really picking players based on form, then why is Calvin Phillips on the plane? He's played a grand total of 1 Premier League minute all year. 1 minute. And for the record, I think Calvin Phillips should be on that plane, but not because of form, but because England have no other players that can play defensive midfield other than Declan Rice. Gareth's explanations are honestly insulting to our intelligence. It's not form, it's loyalty. And loyalty, for better and for worse, is biased. If Tomori and Abraham played for some Premier League club and achieved half of what they have abroad, they'd be on a plane to Qatar right now. And that is a disservice to football. It's this English-centric approach to the sport that prevents the national team from ever truly accomplishing what we think they're capable of. France's joint top goal scorer in the last World Cup played in La Liga. Their goal of the tournament came from a Bundesliga player, and their captain was from the Premier League. Mbappe was the only player consistently in the starting 11 from Liga 1, and nobody cared. All they cared about was that the team was winning, the same way that Germany didn't care that Toni Kroos played for Real Madrid in 2014 when they won the World Cup, and the same way that Spain didn't care that David Silva was playing in the Premier League when they won the Euro. But don't get it twisted, I'm not saying that the Spanish and German teams weren't dominated by players from La Liga and the Bundesliga, because they were. I'm saying that if you want to go down the nationalistic route, you have to earn it. Spanish football ruled the world from 2008 to 2012, followed by the German Revolution from 2011 to 2015, so selecting players from their domestic leagues made sense for them. If the Premier League is in fact the best league in the world right now, which many argue that it is, it's been off the back of Spanish and German footballing philosophies first and foremost, in addition to the excellence of foreign superstars, not because of English coaches trailblazing a new football movement, and not because English players are the best players in the world. And it comes as literally zero surprise that the most exciting English talent in the world right now doesn't even play in the Premier League. And that's Jude Bellingham. the generationally talented teenager playing for the second largest club in Germany, and the only exception to the Premier League bias we've seen this World Cup. He's the only true, potentially world-class box-to-box midfielder that England have, capable of bringing the ball out from deep and scoring goals all on his own too. Southgate honestly had no choice but to take him, but hey, I'm sure that if there was some player playing for Bournemouth or something with half the talent, we'd be having this conversation all over again. And I hope England do well, for Bellingham's sake, but there's a reason why it's hope rather than optimism. Until England stop putting the Premier League on a pedestal and start recognizing talent outside of their own country on a consistent basis, that's all this team will ever have. Hope. And hope is nice, don't get me wrong. It's a lot more than what some other countries in the competition have, but it's a shame because they could be more, because they have more, and it's right there, right in front of their faces. And that's all I got for today. My name is Andy, first team all Sideline. Don't forget to comment, subscribe to the channel, and smash that like button if you want to see more video essays like these. Till next time, boys.